He's eating an apple.
Mhm.
It's that's amazing. Huh? You have to pick it up again and eat it. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes usually just oh, street jail.
Was wollen wir trinken? 7 Tage lang, was wollen wir trinken? So ein Durst. Was wollen wir trinken? 7 Tage lang, was wollen wir trinken? So ein Durst.
That is a Nazi hymn.
Protože to byl nacistický hymn.
Hallelujah.
Cesar, does it, I feel disconnected when I'm interacting with people and I've got my awareness back. And it feels like I'm being rude or they perceive me as being rude because I don't seem so personable.
Yeah, that disconnection is mental, right? So there is the idea of mental connection or mental disconnection, right? Is when the mind is absent, there is nothing that we can perceive as separate or united from oneself that we can think, that we can connect or disconnect from. Everything is oneself. If you know that everything is oneself, so the so-called relationship changes, right? Because it's not a relationship with another, or with oneself.
Yeah. But it seems like they don't even exist when I've got my awareness back on itself.
So the awareness cannot be brought anywhere. Awareness is just awareness.
Sure. Yeah.
Awareness is just awareness. Yeah. Even if there is self-awareness, right? Awareness of that, of being that which is aware. There is also awareness of everything else, right? Without the mind, everything else is oneself also. In that sense, you don't know what you are, you don't know what you are not. See, because everything else is oneself.
Yeah, sure.
Even if somebody act like an idiot, it doesn't matter. He can't help, he can help.
Yeah.
He may just mock, joke, tease or whatever, but one may not at some point be interested in what people are doing or saying. See. Most of that is vanity, so one might withdraw a little bit, but inwardly we are not having a problem with anybody.
I remember you saying that when you were in India with your teacher that you wouldn't connect with, or you wouldn't spend too much time with other people.
It
and you
depends.
weren't interested.
Yeah, it depends upon what they want to talk about. If I'm not interested, it's an up and go. Right? If I myself interested, I stay in. See, but in this movement, if the sense of individuality is realized to be illusory. So there is no individual that is staying somewhere or going from somewhere. Right? It's just that movement. And that action is beyond good and evil. So it's just a movement.
Yeah.
Where an individual apparently is moving, right? Or is staying. The ideas of good and bad, or good and evil, they just go away. They don't exist. They're just that. They're just ideas.
Right.
If a person is an idiot, it's not evil or bad, it's just an idiot, it's just acting idiotic. There's no intelligence. Idiocy or stupidity, it's not a bad word, it's not an offense. It's a word that refers to the lack of intelligence, right? The mind is not intelligent. The mind is, how can it be? The mind is just thought, it's a tool in the hand of the intelligence. So I have no choice but to do whatever that intelligence is making it to do. Whether one considers it like this or like that makes no difference. Mind is just thought. The so-called self or individual self or being or all that is just thought. It is imaginary. It's imagined by oneself. No? So oneself imagines to be an individual self, right? And then it falls under the illusion of its own illusory self, which is made out of an illusory power, which is energy. The whole universe is made out of energy, and the mind is also made out of energy. The world is gross, the mind is subtle. And the energy in its essence, right, in its potentiality, right, is the cause of all that. It's causal, right? Oneself is beyond that. It's beyond cause and effect, right? If you remember that most of the so-called spiritual knowledge, that means anything, is borrowed from India. Not from India, but from the ancient knowledge, the so-called Vedic knowledge and all that stuff. And in that knowledge, the creator is that energy. The absolute is beyond. It manifests, well, it doesn't manifest a creator, it's just within itself. Right? Yeah. Then energy is cyclic, right? It manifests, sustains, destroys, transforms, right? This is why they say that in reality nothing is destroyed as such, nothing disappears as such, it just gets transformed. The energy cannot be destroyed. Matter is energy, energy cannot be destroyed, cannot be created, right? That means if it cannot be created and it cannot be destroyed, means it is as eternal as its source, beginningless, endless, infinite, right? It has been just doing that, going through that cycle infinite amount of times, right? It's an infinite movement within the infinite absolute existence, and it is inseparable from that absolute existence. You know, that energy, the so-called gods, for example, but I am familiarized with this knowledge, right? Don't take it literally, right? Or no, I am not promoting any of that. I'm just familiar. Most of the other religions are basically modification of that knowledge, right? You just modify it. And then you have every god comes with a lady, right? Male and female. The positive energy is positive and negative. You cannot switch on a car. There's a battery that has one pole, right? There will be no circuit. There will be no spark, right? So you have this Brahma, Vishnu, you have Lakshmi, and you have Brahma and Saraswati, you have Vishnu and Lakshmi, and then you have Shiva and Parvati. This is, so one creates, the other one sustains, and the other one destroys, right? And then the process of transformation takes place again. It's a cycle, right? But they have another entity called Brahman. See? So this is why the name Brahma is similar to Brahman, see, because it's coming from Brahma. It's an extension, right, of Brahman. Right? And they have something beyond that, which is called Parabrahman, which is the state when the absolute is, but it doesn't know that it is, right? When it doesn't know that it is, it's called Parabrahman. When it knows that it is in this Brahman, right? And this is to refer to something that we experience oneself every day, right? In deep sleep, we don't know that we are, right? And yet we are.
Oh, okay.
Right? There is existence, but there is no knowledge of existence. There is no awareness of existence, right? Suddenly, the brightest light ever switches on, paklang, right? And then oneself becomes aware that is, and this you call awareness, right? Now there is awareness of existence, right?
Okay.
Then that light, see, goes through some channels in the body, right? Some the so-called nadis, some fluids begins to move. Sometimes that reaches the brain somehow, punk, and now there is body consciousness. Then you can call that consciousness, right? It's merely a physical phenomenon. And then you experience the so-called conscious state or general consciousness when, right? The sense organs get activated. Now you are conscious of the body and you are conscious of the world, right? The body is a world, right? But because all that is one and the same, right? Inseparable, then how can that which is aware experience its own content objectively? It doesn't know it. It's what I'm trying to explain. In that state, when there is no mind, you don't know anything. You don't experience anything because nothing is perceived as separate from oneself. Everything is oneself. So who is knowing what, conscious of what, aware of what, right? There is absolutely nothing in that state, only oneself. But there is always oneself. So to play the game of duality, right, it manifests also, see, something else. Guess who? Me, right? An imaginary individual self, right? Or an imaginary individual, right? Which is a thought form, I, the thought I. And that thought gives subjectivity to the body, right? So this thought I identifies the body as a subject, right? But now there is a subject, experiencing objects as separate from themselves. Oh my God, I have a lemon juice. Oh, that's very nice, right?
Sure.
If the mind is withdrawn completely within oneself, you don't want anything, not interested in anything. Or anyone, this is absolutely nothing. This state, people may find it rude, right? But there is nobody there that is even rude. It's just nobody's there. But somebody may find the absence of somebody else as rude.
Yeah,
And
sure.
sometimes one can help it, right? It begins to happen by itself. Sometimes people have to really make a lot of noise to bring you back. Yes, see? Cesar, oh my God. What's wrong with you? I'm calling you. And they freak out, right? Or they say something and you don't give a damn, do you? You say, sorry, I was not even What? Right? See, sometimes Ramana was even with the eyes open, and they have to sound a shell, use like a seashell like a horn, right? Oh, just to let him know that it was time to go for lunch. Right? So if there is no mind, there is nothing. Doesn't mean that mind is everything, but that means conceptually, not physically, right? Or materially, yes, conceptually. This is why they say that the mind creates the world, not the physical world. See, creates a world. See, an objective entity, separate entity called world, right? So this body is a world, yes or no? It is an infinitesimal part of the totality of the manifestation, right? That appears to be now separate from the other objects, right? And separate from its source. That's a periscope. Eventually, when it becomes a spiritual dude, it's a spiritual periscope. Now it's looking outside, now it's looking within, right? And it's aware of the world and it's aware of the source, whatever, right? But it realizes the world and realizes the self. If this periscope is taken down, what is the world and what is the source? And that state, there is neither duality or non-duality or nothing. So this periscope, the mind, see, 4 states it goes through. See, the so-called rajasic mind or active mind is an action, expecting something in return. I'm going there because I want to experience that. That's why I'm going there, because I want to have a good time, right? I'm going to that cafe because I know they have a nice carrot cake and a super coffee, right? Arabica coffee is fantastic there. I'm going there for that purpose. There's nothing wrong with that, right? That's one aspect of the movement of this periscope entity self, right? And sometimes there is an action just for the sake of it. The self is action. That doesn't mean good action. That nothing to do with goodness. Sorry, the unselfish action has nothing to do with goodness. It's an action that is for the sake of it. You're not expecting anything out of that. It's just done. And the so-called tamasic mind or dull mind is a stupid mind. It's useless, right? You can't think properly. You can't respond properly to anything. You're lazy. You better go to sleep. That's a mind or a characteristic of the mind that is necessary for the body to collapse so it can rest, right? Sure. From both activities, whether it is selfish or unselfish, right? There is another state of mind which is a witness, right? It's called turiya, right? When the mind is observing its own content physically and is witnessing, right? But when there is something beyond that sees all that, that's called turiya tit, is beyond everything, right? It's a witness of the witness, right? That which sees the observer, right? This is why sometimes the observer appears to be the body, or there is somebody there that it doesn't identify itself as a body. I'm not identifying myself as a body, and I am one with everything. See, nothing is separate from me. So there is me and something that is not separate from me, right?
Right.
And that is called non-duality. It's a mental state. Or non-differentiation, or called samadhi, right? Oneself as the absolute, as that which is. Whatever. Actually, I made you. Not even you know that you're going through that, because that mind is not even aware of itself. That mind exists only because that which sees it. Only because of that which sees it is, right? So the mind is because that is. Everything is because that is. So when we know what the mind is, the mind is not destroyed as such. The way it works changes. That's all. The way it operates changes, right? One can say, okay, it gets transformed, but it gets transformed constantly. You see, it's no longer acting conditioned by any memory or knowledge that has been accumulated, right? I may sometimes add condition by this knowledge. I know there is a nice carrot cake, whenever I have the chance, I go and get it, right? If I get to know that tomorrow there are ways, I'll go and try to get them. Small ways in Qatar, you see? I heard there is small ways in Qatar now. Let's go for it. So I'm not going because I like big waves. I don't like baby waves, right? So this may go. It's no longer a problem, right? So the mind can be a little bit selfish, a little bit unselfish, a little bit bugger off, right? That doesn't disappear. At the most, one can say that it gets balanced, right?
Sure.
If you become a saint or a sage, that means it's a person that is going to be mostly dedicated to basically do this, right? Then the mind is mostly unselfish. It does it because it can, right? And a little bit of this and that now and then, why not? It's not that you're going to be sitting on the stone. Not even Ramana could do that. Even Ramana will read the newspaper or play a little bit of music if they have a small radio in the hall, or he will even go and visit some people's houses, some friends. He had friends, and will go and visit them, right? So the meaning of the mind disappears is not that as such disappears. The mind disappears means there is no entity. There's no separate entity called mind, right?
Well,
or body, because mind is the thought, I am the body, yes?
I find that there's no motivation to do things. I've got plans, but
It doesn't matter if there is motivation or not. This body came into existence to do something. You think this body wants to do this, or is motivated to do this, or that this body knows that it's doing this? Or this body knows that it even exists, right? Now you see on the screen, right? A computer screen, and Cesar is projected on the screen, so are you, right? It's like a movie. You think that the character Cesar and the character Terry has the motivation to participate in this talk or not, right?
I don't even know.
No. So this one has no choice whether to do this or to do something else, right? Because it's a projection, right? It's an energy projection. And who is the projector? Oneself also, right? Because he can't help it. Imagine an existence, right? Without consciousness, meaning without awareness, sorry. Right? Let's put these words as people are familiarized with, just for the sake of People get this. Oh, good Lord. So imagine an existence without awareness of existence. And without consciousness of anything. This is a useless existence, pointless. To be and not knowing that, right? Not knowing, not knowledge of being, right? And no consciousness of anything, right? So you know what? Let's have a cup of coffee, right? Let's go for a walk in the forest, but there's no forest. Okay, let's let it is. Now I can go and walk there, right? It's basically like that. This is a metaphor, so this is not true. It's a way of speech, right?
Yeah.
For example, the Veda says that the Absolute manifested a creator, see, to create a world for him, right? So first it manifested. In reality, it was never manifested. It was always there, right? It never came into existence. Nothing can come into existence, right? It was always there. It is always there. But because people cannot think, but in terms of time and space and something that comes and appears, and so all these stories and mythology has been created. This right? It works for the sake of explanation, of deliverance, right?
Yeah.
In reality, it's not like that. In reality, oneself alone is, that's all. There's nothing else is there, nothing ever appear or disappear or God manifested or create, nothing. All that is oneself and always exists as oneself. Even Ramana said that the seeker, as long as there is a seeker, they said the seeker must be happy. So he's satisfied with the theory of spontaneous manifestation. Because even to speak about manifestation, okay, we have a manifestation, and then we have to bring another entity that manifested all that, and that doesn't exist. So there's no two, or one with the other, or one and nothing. It is just the isness of the isness. It's the isness of the isness. This is isness. All that completely, collectively is isness. This is when the mind listens to this, right? It's just, right? People say, oh my God, I feel like my brain is going to explode, see? The mind is going to explode. It's mind blowing. It blows the mind away. That's the whole point. Okay, manifest all this, fine. Now, how can I experience all this objectively? So, manifest self, right? That pretends to be me, right? Or I pretend to be that. It's me, which is just a thought, right? It's the idea that there is a subject experiencing everything else objectively, right? And separate, as if it is separate from itself, right? Like I am here, the lemon juice is here, and then there is a subject that experiences this as if it is separate from itself. And one experiencing the other, one tasting the other, one enjoying the flavor of the other. That will remain even after the so-called enlightenment, awakening, or whatever fancy word you want to use for the fact that there is a discovery that what the mind is. So that's the meaning of the world, the individual, and the self, oneself, are one. So if the world and the individual are the self, then the self alone is. The mind cannot swallow this. The mind can disappear in this.
A friend of mine,
Where is the office? Right? Here. Where is the boss? Here. What are the others? Here. And where is me? Also here. Right? Both of them arise from the energy, right? From the energy source, right? The mirror of energy, and then it reaches the brain. This is me, and the others. They appear together and disappear together. Good morning, my love. See, there is I, and my love is all this neuron activity. It's an image in the brain. As everything else, the world that we perceive through the senses is interpreted by the brain. Right?
yeah,
The so-called objective reality is completely subjective because it's a brain interpretation. And me comes and makes an interpretation, a conceptual interpretation of a physical interpretation. It's an interpretation of an interpretation. The interpreter that says that the interpretation is tasty, pleasant, unpleasant, and this and that and the other. And all that movement has no separate existence. That's the whole point. Has no free will. Because all that is part of the projection on the screen, right, of the Absolute. So if somebody says in a projection on the screen, yes, I realize the self, right, that character on the screen has no choice to say that even. Whether that represents the truth or a fake guru, it's the same story, it's the same nonsense. Then, I'm getting the look. What? Oh, nice. Nice to see that you are not there. I've been waiting for you to go for a long time. That's why we got together. Basically. Once we're gone, then we can be forever happy. If you go, you can stay. If you stay, you better go. Oh, yeah. No pasarán. Ni no pasarán. Then you see, you can say whatever you want, you can think whatever you want, you can do whatever, it doesn't really matter. It never mattered anymore. Now you just know that it never mattered anymore. The matter doesn't really matter, And mind, well, never mind. And if somebody minds the mind, it doesn't matter. So if me is absent, right? Who is going to speak or describe that state? To whom and how? It's a matter of direct experience, so to speak, right? Which is not an experience, it's a realization of the absence of the experiencer, or the realization of the nature or reality of the mind is basically. This is why the inquiry cannot be about oneself, because we are always oneself. Oneself alone actually is the only thing that it is, right? So the inquiry is about what oneself believes to be, this self. What the hell is this self? Who is this self? Right? That pretends to be myself. It's called the impostor that stole one's identity. But you cannot blame the impostor because it cannot even do that by itself, right? So it's like the self, by its own illusory power, creates an entity that fools him. Huh? I remember a story of Ramana Maharshi sitting on a couch, most surely outside of any hall or something, right? And they look at the skies and take the thumb and go like this. Look at that. Tiny little thing, the thumb can cover the sun. So is the mind. Such a tiny little thing is a thought. Right? It's capable to cover one's reality. So the mind cannot create the thought. The mind is the thought. The energy couldn't create it by itself because it is by the will of the Absolute. So we have to arrive to the conclusion that all that, including the ego, arose from a single source. And that single source is nothing but oneself as the source. So we know oneself as the world, the body, right? Because there is only one body, all this. Okay? There is only one mind, okay? It's I, because it is here and there, it's the same mind, right? So we know oneself as the body, we know oneself as the mind, we know oneself as the unmanifest energy that brought all that into existence,